Planning Commission, members of council, this is Darren Cunningham. I come to most all these meetings. I am not able to be there this Thursday, so I wanted to send a message out to you regarding my thoughts. I hope you take this in consideration. I'm at 1015 12th Avenue South in Nashville, right outside the Galt in Colby Slice's district. So this bill is an attempt to create a solution to a non-existent problem. I'll say that 100 times over. This is creating a solution to a non-existent problem. I saw the request for research after you deferred the bill to allow for further research, and they asked for several things in there. I'm going to outline those real quick of what the answers were and kind of my thoughts on the summary of those. So in the meantime, I reached out to the chief of the fire department. I reached out to the police department and spoke to members of law enforcement. I spoke to firefighters. I spoke to the chief, like I said, and the captain. And they cannot come to council or planning, and as much as the ones I spoke to would like to, they can't come and testify that they don't see short-term rentals as a problem. In fact, I will quote a firefighter. He said, when we get a call and it happens to be a short-term rental property, we know it's going to be an easy night because there's never problems there. We get a call somewhere else, we never have any idea what's going to be happening. So he's like, these things are great for our city. We love them. And this is coming from a firefighter. I talked to Metro police officers. Same thing. He's like, are you kidding me? There are no problems with short-term rental properties. He goes, I'd love to testify, but our captain would never let me do that, especially in uniform. So if they had the choice, we would have lined up the place Thursday night with police officers and firemen, but they're simply not allowed to do it. But just know that happened. Go talk to them. I don't think research has been done that's, on your end to talk to them, but I would suggest doing that, especially prior to writing a bill like this. So if you'll consider these other items as well. This bill, the research that was conducted, that we've conducted, which is actual valid research, shows that there have been, of the 801 short-term rental properties within 100 feet of these facilities, the churches and daycare facilities and parks, of those in the last 12 months, there were 3 complaints filed. 2 were thrown out because they were not validated, and 1 was validated and a fine was put in place, which is what should happen. To put that in perspective, that makes a short-term rental less likely to have a complaint filed against it than your home, okay? That is a fact. That's not an opinion, that is a fact. So please take that in consideration of this bill, which creates a solution to a non-existent problem. This is simply a radical member of council creating something that is going to further limit short-term rental properties, which there are several council members whose mind will never get swayed no matter what. That if it's a chance to limit short-term rentals, they will. I, on the other hand, and many people like me, believe that controlled growth is the way to go. So I think limitations need to get put on short-term rental properties, just like anything in life. So when you propose the bill about owner-occupied short-term rentals, for example, there's a problem there. We all know there's people who don't live there that say they live there and they're renting them out as if they're in their middle of a residential neighborhood next to a friendly neighbor who doesn't want to have short-term rental all the time. That should be controlled. That should be outlawed. But doing a blanket ban is not the way to do it. So enforcement is the issue there. So again, I see things both ways, and I'm trying to be logical here, and I hope that you will as well when you vote on this. So you all have a chance to vote on this. Please do the right thing. This is not a problem, but it will harm many people if you put this into place. And it should be noticed that this does not factor in people who have vested rights. So if they're in midst of construction and they're building short-term rental properties within 100 feet of a church, for example, this does not address them, and it needs to. Okay, that is not fair to anybody. I don't want to threaten lawsuits. There'll be lawsuits everywhere if that goes through. So you just need to, if this bill gets considered, which it should not, hypothetically, there's a small chance it goes through, you have to consider grandfathering as well. All right, so onward. About the things that were requested, the ramifications on how eligible properties would be affected. The response was, it would be difficult to estimate the potential number of units currently permissible that would no longer be permitted on these parcels without doing a panel or a parcel by parcel evaluation. This would take significant time and would be at best an estimate. Well, God forbid you would take this significant time to do this. So since you cannot, don't put in a bill that takes away people's property rights simply because you have an opinion or a thought on something, but you can't take the time to research it. We've done it. It's taken an astronomical amount of research we don't get paid for, but we've done it. We found time to do it. So consider that. Secondly, wanted to know where STRs currently are allowed in relation to these properties. 810 within 100 feet is what it says. And then there was a statistic put in here that's not relevant. It says they went on to, or I'm saying this, they went on to add some statistics about a 158% increase from 2018 compared to 165% increase beyond the boundary. There's no relevance to that statistic at all. I don't know why it's in there. It doesn't show anything, any direction, in favor, against, anything at all. So then the last would be the current infractions with their relationship to those, and then also on the focus on future eligible properties, etc. So anyhow, this is really important. This statistic is simply false or skewed. So please look into this. This says, reviewing complaints for an 18-month period from 2018 to 2019, 62% of sites with at least one non-owner-occupied permit during this time within the buffer area had a complaint compared to 48% beyond the buffer area. That would suggest that the properties that are closer are more probable to have a complaint. What in this research, so let's go back to the research we did, that is 3 complaints out of 810, one of which was validated. This research here doesn't specifically target short-term rental properties. It targets an area where short-term rentals are located, not the properties. So think about this. Many of these properties were put in very low income, high crime areas. That's where RM20, RM40, MUL, and MUN zoning was that permitted these. Those high crime areas are still relatively high crime areas. It's not the short-term rental properties themselves. It's the crime of the surrounding areas. And some of these things, they aren't crimes. We're talking about parking on the street. Silly things that aren't crimes. But consider, this is not specifically to short-term rental properties. It's the area, street, block that they are on. Please consider that. This is false or misleading information. You have to factor this in. At a minimum, defer this to do further research. You'll find that this is creating a solution to a non-existent problem, of which, again, I will keep saying over and over and over again. But if you are very radical, you will try to put a bill in place like this that does not make any sense at all. So that's my short 8-minute version. Thanks for watching. If you stuck this out the whole way, I really do appreciate it. I'm a good guy. I'm a former school teacher. I get into real estate. I invest into real estate. I have a wife. I've got kids. We're here in the house. Just out here trying to earn a living. And if this was a problem, I would get it. There are problems I think that need corrected. This is not one at all. So also my father's an investor with me here in Nashville. He's one of those bad guy out of town investors. It's my father. He's looking to retire, and he asked me, where could I put some money that you could manage for me, Darren, invest in real estate. And after my mother passed away 2 years ago, he gave me a sum of money of his to work with down here and buying short-term rentals with her sort of legacy, if you will, was the route that we chose to go. So he's one of those out-of-town investors that are oftentimes thought of on paper as being the bad guy. He's not. He's a medic in Vietnam, hell of a guy. He's going to move down here eventually, and that's a separate story. But again, thanks for watching, and hope you take this into consideration.